More than $100 million for 3 years is still a very big deal, especially because the past year and a half or so in podcasting has really seen some of the smaller shows, the narrative shows, struggle to find budgets and audience. So the fact that these mega deals are still happening, granted for celebrities, is still a pretty big deal. Yeah.
Do these mega deals work though for the companies? I mean, we were talking about what happened out at Spotify when they were doling out big money in recent years to podcasters. Apart from Joe Rogan, investors didn't necessarily have the patience for that. Does this type of thing work for a company like Amazon's Wondery?
I think the way the business is changing now is in the past, the way these companies arrived at these valuations was essentially taking, the amount of audience a show has and is projected to get, and then basically multiplying it by how much they charge for the ads against that audience. And now what companies are really thinking about, and as Amazon mentions in their press release about this, they're thinking about IP licensing opportunities for merch, for other items. They're thinking about live streams and live events. There's sort of this broader idea of like a media empire tied to the podcast rather than just the straight up ad sales for the video and audio.
All right. I don't want to diss the brothers. I think they're pretty cool. And I know they've had a following, but the Taylor effect, has really juiced them in a big way. If she hadn't come along, do you think we'd be talking about a 3-year, $100 million deal?
We'd still be talking about a 3-year, $100 million deal. I think the question is, did dating Taylor Swift sort of put the podcast in another echelon as far as people paying attention to it? And it significantly did grow the audience. I spoke to the chief content officer at Wave Sports and Entertainment who used to produce that show. And he told me that when Taylor went to her first Kansas City Chiefs game, the show had a 50% increase in viewership. And then a month later, the YouTube channel had grown by 350,000 subscribers. So it really helped the show take off more than it already had been.
Do you think Taylor would come on our show and maybe just talk to us about, when we talk climate change or something?
I have not reached out to her people, Carol.
Have you?
I have not reached out to her people.
Okay.
But we'll do that, and I'll get back to you.
Just one little
segment.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
That's all we need.
Is the industry getting a little saturated with the celebrity big banner podcasts, Ashley?
I think it certainly was saturated during the pandemic when every celebrity was home and looking for work. Now, I think a lot of the shows that started up around that time have essentially ended. And you do have some folks, it's not easy to have a podcast. You guys are, as radio hosts and podcast hosts, it's a full-time job. It takes a lot of dedication to do this work, even if people make it seem easy. So celebrities who are just in it for maybe a paycheck or for one season, they're not doing it anymore. These are now folks who are taking this seriously as a real career.
Yeah, I don't know. I have one last question. When you are doing a 3-year, $100 million deal, that's a lot of money. What does a successful podcast bring in terms of revenues?
Well, I don't know what it brings in, but I would assume they want to make the money back and then some. But The idea is really that it's a place for them to sell the ads and then, of course, bring audience to their other shows as well.
Yeah.
Wait, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
Can I do this?
You can do whatever you want. This
I
is
think
your show, too.
I do think there is some confusion with Wondery and the relationship that Wondery has with Amazon and for people who have Amazon Prime. This is not one of those services that makes Amazon Prime more valuable. Wondery is a separate add-on still to Amazon, no?
Wondery is owned by Amazon, technically Amazon Music. So it's part of the Amazon empire, but they do have their own separate app that's a subscription app called Wondery Plus. So they operate a little bit, I guess, separately in that way.